أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده وحبيبه ورسوله وصلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأولاده وأزواجه وأتباعه أجمعين اللهم ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا ربي زدني علما. Dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for coming to the first part of learning your first steps into reading the Qur'an. The dua that we made here saying Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khayri wa bika nasta'in ya fatah zidni Rabbi zidni ilma. We asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "O Allah, make it easy for me and do not make it harder. وَتَمِّمْ بِالْخَيْرِ, and complete me in being beneficial. Make me complete in being beneficial, doing beneficial deeds. وَبِكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, and to you we turn for help. يَا فَتَّاحُ, O opener of all doors. رَبِّي زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, O Allah, increase me in your knowledge." So we begin with the first letter here. This is Alif, and it's pronounced by opening your mouth, not fully open, not oval, but rather half oval and half wide. Alif. In order to get the correct pronunciation. Alif. A certain amount of opening of the mouth should be there in order to get the complete sound. Alif. Next one is Ba. By firmly keeping your lips closed first and then opening them, and at the same time bringing out a voice. Ba. This is Ta. So you pronounce it by attaching the front part of your tongue to the gums behind the top teeth. Ta. The next one is Tha. And this letter is in a lot of cases mispronounced by a lot of brothers who tend to read this as Sa. That's because in some parts of the world people do not have the letter Tha in their alphabet, and they find that difficult. The way this letter is pronounced is by getting the tip of the tongue right in between the bottom and the top teeth. So if I come a little bit closer to the camera, you will find out exactly where the articulation point of Tha is. So it's Tha. So you get your tongue firmly between your teeth. If you keep it behind your teeth, it turns into a Sa, which is wrong. The reason why people don't pronounce this as Tha is because they are not sticking their tongue out enough. And it should not be behind the teeth, it should be right between the top and the bottom teeth. Tha. Tha. We go on to the next letter. This is now Jim. Jim. A lot of brothers from different parts of the Muslim world, they pronounce this as Jim. It depends on whether you came from Egypt or Morocco in that part. They pronounce it as not as firm Jim like I'm pronouncing it. They pronounce it between G and Jim. But either way, it's okay. But if you can pronounce it as Jim, that'll be good. This letter here is Ha. Ha. It comes from the middle part of the throat. Ha. So what you do is you pull your tongue back a little bit, not fully blocking the airway, just a little. And then when you bring out this gushing sound, hashing sound I should say, then that turns into this quality. Ha. The next one is Kha. Just as this letter here Ha comes from the middle part of the throat, the next one here comes from the top part of the throat. Kha. So you apply a very tiny touch with the back of the tongue touching the soft part of the palate of the mouth, which is right between the throat and the mouth. Kha. And your mouth turns oval shape. Kha. Unlike the other letters like Ha, Ba, Ta, Tha, the end with a sound which is between A and E. This one here, it's due to the fact that the letter is a full mouth letter. Therefore, the sound also ends with a full mouth. So your mouth, it causes your mouth to go oval. Kha. This one here is Dal. Da. Dal. The articulation point of this letter is very, very close to the articulation point of Ta. But the difference is that to pronounce this letter, Ta, you will have to apply a much firmer touch of the tongue against the gums behind the upper teeth. Ta. Whereas to pronounce Dal, Da, it's half of the amount of the touch that or the press that you press to say the letter Ta. Use half of that amount, or maybe a little bit less, to pronounce the letter Dal. So Dal and Ta, same, or if not same, at least they share a very, very close to each other articulation points. So this is Dal. This one here is Dal. Again, the same articulation point as Tha, but just as the difference between Ta and Dal, the letter Tha and the letter Dal share the same articulation point, but then again, the way to apply it is by applying less pressure against the top teeth, and then you end up saying Tha. If you put more than that, you end up pronouncing the letter Tha. Okay? So Tha with more pressure, Tha, that is less pressure. So we are here. So this letter is now Dal. This letter here is Ra. Ra. And as you notice, your jaws tuck inwards a little bit, and then your mouth goes oval. Ra. Ra. This one here is Zal. Zal. And apparently a lot of brothers pronounce this letter here as za as well, which is again inappropriate due to the fact that it can change some meanings if you pronounce this letter as this letter here, or if you pronounce this letter here as this letter, va, that would be wrong. So I've heard a lot of brothers who pronounce this letter as za, but it is wrong, or at least inappropriate. This letter here is va, the same articulation point as the letter dal, but the difference is that more part of the tongue, the sides of the tongue are attached to the top teeth, and then you end up saying va, and your mouth goes oval shape again. So that's what causes the sound of this letter to sound as heavy mouth or full mouth letter. So this letter here is now z, zal. So your tongue gets, properly behind the teeth, whilst you close your teeth as much as you possibly can, and then you have this wheezing sound, z, z, zal. This one here is s, seen, seen. But the difference between saying the letter zal and seen, even though they do share very similar articulation point, but to say the letter zal, the tongue stands slightly more behind the teeth, so the gap between the tongue and the teeth is a lot bigger to say zal, whereas to say seen, your tongue pushes closer to right behind the teeth, so there's more pressure, and now that wheezing sound becomes into a more like doubled up sound, as in seen. This one here is sheen, sheen. Again, your tongue is behind the teeth, and then your lips go into a sort of a square to get that the sh sound, sheen. This one is sod, sod. It is similar to the articulation point of seen, but more portion of the tongue is involved. So for example, to say the seen is only the front part of the tongue that's used, whereas to say the letter sod, the sides of the tongue are used to attach to their opposite parts, so, and your lip get tucked in closer, saw, sawed, and then your mouth goes oval to be able to produce that sound, sawed. This letter is da, dad. Same articulation point as dal, but then again, you need to apply more portion of the tongue to the gums at the front and the sides as well. So you don't just say da, because that means you'll be using the front of the tongue only. But in this case, to say the letter dad, it's the full part of your tongue at the front, including the side bits as well, get attached to the gums and say da, dad. And again, your mouth goes oval to be able to pronounce the R sound. This letter here is pa. And again, sharing the same articulation point as ta. You apply now a lot more pressure on this letter here, ta. Then again, that means you attach your tongue to the same articulation point as for ta, but the difference is you get more portion of your tongue involved into that, so the sides of the tongue put the same amount of pressure to their respective part of the gums on either side to say the letter ta. So it's ta. This one here is va. So this has the same articulation point as this letter here, dal. But again, as the same situation with all the other full mouth letters. This letter now, va, attaching the tongue to the same articulation point as for dal, but more portion of the tongue attached to the respective opposite part, which in this case it is the teeth. So instead of saying the, using only the tip of the tongue and touching only the two incisors, in this case, for this letter here, you pronounce it by attaching the full front part of your tongue, which will then include the two incisors and the two teeth on this side and the other teeth on the other side, and that will be covering 6 teeth altogether. So it's va, va. So remember, it is your tongue attaching to the 6 front teeth above the top teeth. Va. Now this is a throat letter. Ain. From the middle part of the throat. Ain. Same articulation point as this letter here. Ha. Right? But this is more like pushing the air out, whereas in this case here, it's ain. Like no air coming out. You're just literally pronouncing the letter using the tongue and the throat. Ain. Ain. This is ghain. The same articulation point as letter kha, where this letter kha is pronounced by lifting the back part of your tongue and firmly touching the back of the palate of the mouth, the soft part. Kha. So just imagine where the tongue needs to touch to say the letter kha. The same articulation point is for this letter here, gha, ghain, but you apply less pressure than you apply for letter kha. So this is just ghain, and not as many people pronounce it as gain. It's not gain, it's ghain. I personally use this reference as gain for some young children who I teach online, and that's mainly because I am not there with them to properly train them to read it as ghain. So I tell them that, just to make it easier, say gain, but later on when they start reading more, then I slowly start to tune them into the right pronunciation of ghain. So if you can get it right, please do from beginning. Say ghain, ghain. We'll now move on to page 5. This letter here is fa, and that's pronounced by attaching the bottom lip firmly against the top incisors. Fa. And not fa, it's fa. So the front of the lip, the bottom of the lip tucks inside a little bit, and then this line of the lip touches the incisors. Fa. The next letter is qaf. Qa. Qaf. The back of the mouth raises up and touches the part which is right between the soft palate of the mouth coming towards the harder palate at the top. Qa. Qaf. Whereas this one here is kaf. Kaf. So it's kaf. This letter is pronounced by raising the middle part of your tongue against the respective part of the palate right opposite of it. So the middle of the tongue goes up and touches the center of the hard palate of the mouth. Ka, not qa, it's ka. This one here is lam, and it's not lam, it's not lam, it's lam. The sound is between A and E. Lam. Meme. Meme. The way you pronounce the meme is by using the same articulation point as ba, but the difference is, to say the letter ba, you apply more pressure. Whereas on the meme, it's just the inner part of the lips. The inner part of the bottom lip against the inner part of the top lip, both when they get together, the softer part, because the lip has two parts, the inner part, which is that side here, right, and that's a softer part. So in order to say meme, you don't need to turn your lips inwards so much like that, as in meme, like that. Meme. Meme. This one here is noon. Noon. The articulation point of noon is very close to the articulation point of the letter ta, but it's a bit more inside towards the center of the palate. So that's noon. Wow is getting the two lips close enough, but not closed completely. Wow. So without touching each other. Wow. This one is ha. It is from the bottom part of the throat, and the bottom part of the throat is all the way to the chest here. So when you notice that when you're saying the letter ha, how do you find out whether you're saying the correct ha or not? Is when you say this letter, all you do is put a bit of pressure against your heart. And if you feel any vibration when you say ha, yeah, ha, then you know you're saying it rightly. If you're saying the letter ha, the ha, as in like that, you will find, you'll feel no vibrations. So when you say ha and you get some vibrations, you know you've said the letter ha from its correct articulation point. So this is ha. This one here is hamza. It's not a letter, it's a sound, and it is the same as alif. This one is ya. This letter here is ya. Ya, with two dots. And also this letter here is ya as well. You'll learn in the future videos why does this ya sometimes in the Qur'an come in this shape rather than in that shape. So I hope you found this video helpful, and with the grace of Almighty God, we hope that you'll be able to learn the reading of the Qur'an in a much easier way, and I hope that my video has helped you at least, if not taught you altogether. Thank you very much, and we ask Allah Almighty to help us in doing good deeds and bringing good results. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we will see you in the next video.